Welcome to another edition of the MMA Lockcast Live. I'm your host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on Twitter at MMALOTN. This week we're going over UFC Vegas 34, headlined by Kelvin Gastelum and Jared Cannonier in a big middleweight scrap, or at least a very important middleweight scrap, especially for Kelvin Gastelum, who's now 1-4 in his last 5 fights. So I'm very excited for this card, primarily for the fact that I'm actually going to be down there watching the fights live, flying out to Vegas on Thursday, and hoping that I can get into the weigh-in so I can watch those Friday morning. But then obviously the fights are going down Thursday afternoon, so I can't wait to get in and get that going. But this should be a decent card as well. I know a lot of people are kind of shitting on it in terms of the lack of name value that's actually on it, but it actually has some fun and entertaining fights. I do think that there's a lot of people um that are kind of overlooking it, like I said, due to the lack of name value. But I think that a lot of these matchups will produce some fireworks and some fun fights. So I really can't wait for that to go down. And it should all be fun to obviously digest it in a live atmosphere. I do want to quickly apologize right off the bat in terms of the lack of camera quality here. I'm forced to use the cam that's straight on my laptop compared to the one that I actually plug in, the 4K Brio that I normally have. Left it at my in-laws place. So that's a couple provinces over now. I believe they're going to be shipping it back to me, but it won't be back in time for me to actually use it for the rest of the streams this week. So I apologize for the crappy quality in the video that you guys are going to be seeing this week, but the audio should still be pristine with this beautiful, what is it, fucking SMB Shure mic, whatever the fuck it is. Hopefully that's still spitting some good sounds for you guys on the audio side of things. Yeah, you guys know how this podcast normally goes down. I'm going to be going over the fights from bottom to top. We did have a fight that just got announced today, I believe. Trevin Jones does have a replacement. I'll be touching on that fight as well. I'll be taking questions at the back end of every single matchup in case anybody has questions. If you do have questions, please keep it relevant to the matchup that's actually taking place, or the matchup that I'm actually talking about. I'm not going to be, answering questions about Gastelum, Cannonier when I'm talking about Pantoja and Royval. So let's try to keep those questions to the specific matchup that I'm on. Otherwise, I'm just going to skip it. I mean, I don't want to do any of that either. So shout out to everybody that's actually participating in the chats and all that stuff. All right, let me get this thing going. Let me just get I got the slideshow back for you guys. I know you guys enjoyed having the nice graphics up while I'm breaking down these fights. So let me see if I can get those back up for you guys. I'm a little bit rusty. It's been a while since I've used the slideshow for this. You know what? Let's quickly see what the chat's saying first. Then we'll hop into the actual podcast here. Shout out to my guy Ryan Grant here for the Park Reporter fan club meeting. You know what it is. Justin T is here for that as well. Chris for the love of MMA. Appreciate you stopping by, my guy. Glad to see you got home finally after the shit. Yeah, I am happy to be home. TJ Mizzy in the chat. What's going on, my guy? Dimitar Evgeniev, Park Reporter champion. Maybe. Derek Pantoja versus Royval. Got to be banger of the night. I agree, man. I absolutely agree. That is easily the fight that I'm looking forward to the most. Chris saying video quality means nothing. Quality of the breakdowns are what's good and you deliver. I appreciate the love there, my man. Killer G saying Locke is excited for the card, but more than anything, excited for those lobster tacos. You know it. I can't wait. The funny thing is, I don't think I've ever knowingly had lobster before. So it's the tacos part that actually got me. So I'm looking forward to that this weekend for sure. Marcus Henry in the chat. Appreciate you stopping by, my guy. Justin T saying free Marcel. Might need to drop some merch for Marcel, our guy over there. Speaking of merch, we do actually, or I have actually finally gotten merch off the ground thanks to my mother-in-law who runs her own crafting company and who's pretty much done all of my merch in the past outside of the hats that I've had. But I think the link is in the description. Otherwise, I will make sure I put it on the back end. But there is some Lock of the Night merch out there in case you guys want to be repping your boy. But shout out to my guy, Marcel. Hopefully everything bounces back for him. African saying, free up the homie Marcel, even though he was wrong. I think it's the only time he's ever been wrong about anything. And if people are wondering what I'm talking about, he released information this morning talking about, or a couple of hours ago, saying that Paddy Pimblett was out of his fight with Luigi Vendramini scheduled for September 4th. He got some information and it didn't really, it didn't really pan out. Luigi Vendramini's manager apparently was offered another opponent in case Pimblett wasn't able to get his visa issues settled. He said he has an appointment on Monday with the embassy, so we'll find out Monday for sure whether or not Pimblett's going to be fighting or not. But as of right now, it seems like Pimblett is still on. But yeah, Big Marcel's the G. I don't think he's ever been wrong about anything in the past before. This is literally the only thing that's ever been questionable. But shout out to my guy. Rexley in the chat, a very retro looking today with the old webcam. Yeah, it's weird. I just don't like the grainy look of it. I don't like it at all. Bob Better saying I have Chase Sherman box Ek not go to decision. We'll talk about that fight very shortly. Ryan Grant saying, what lobster is the shit? Enjoy my dude. Yeah, never had it myself. So hoping those tacos are the bomb. Marcus Henry, ready to hear your this banger parlay you got cooked up. Do I have a parlay? I do have a PFL and UFC parlay that I'll tell you guys about later. But again, a lot of the PFL stuff is just not the PFL stuff is all with no tape. It's just I'm assuming that these people are going to win. UFC is obviously where I do the majority of my tape. Andal B saying Lachlan I does the books for a Muay Thai Ponzi scheme. Yes, I do. Just jokes. Can't wait to see what you got locked for Saturday. Yes, sir. Hopkins saying been a few weeks since I've had the opportunity to be in here live. Fucking excited. Let's go. Appreciate you stopping by, my guy. PSSA 31 saying what restaurants are you hitting up in Vegas? I don't know yet. I really don't know. I definitely want to hit up Shake Shack at one point. That's one place I will always be indebted to. But in terms of actual restaurants, I'm not 100% sure yet. I've gotten a couple people suggesting a couple spots to me, so I'll definitely take a look through there. But I don't want to go out too much while I'm in Vegas either. I know there's a lot of that COVID shit going around, so I want to be as safe as possible. So I'm going to limit the amount of time I'm actually going to be spending out in public and all that stuff. Got a couple plans with a couple people on the Thursday and on the Friday as well. But again, going to very much limit my activity and make sure that I can pass my COVID test so I can get back into fucking Canada. Ben Peak in the chat. Shout out PFL Master Ben Peak. Always providing us solid PFL breakdowns in the Discord for the Patreon. Marcus Henry saying I got 11 out of 13 last weekend on PFL and Bellator. Ooh, not too bad. African also CLV on Carl, the big Uso is huge, plus 145 to minus 115. Yeah, I heard a lot of people talking about Sumentafa, I believe the guy's name is. I know my guy Z's on him as well. Tajik Bay in the chat. Appreciate you stopping by. That's my guy right there. Tajik, one day you're going to show your face on this stream. All I'm saying, whether it's the Ultimate Weigh-In Show, whatever the fuck, I'm getting you on here. Marcus Henry, I got 11 out of 13 right on PFL and Bellator last weekend. You'll kill it with your PFR parlay. Thank you. I hope so. Ryan Grant, are we going to get a Kalikas interview? No promises yet. We'll see what happens. Derek, Shake Shack is terrible. Go to Slater's 50-50 best burger and shake in Vegas. Okay. I loved Shake Shack from my memory. Again, I went 6 years ago. I went for the Aldo McGregor card 6 years ago, and that's the lasting memory that I have. But if Slater's 50-50 is on the strip, I will definitely go check that out. Shout out to my guy Derek for hitting me up about that. If you are on Twitter, Derek, by the way, slide in my DMs and hit me with that reminder as well. I'll definitely try to remember Slater's. All right, let's fucking get into the podcast here. Shout out to everybody that's already in the chat. The 40-ish of you. I'm sure that number is going to start to balloon as time goes on. But yeah, let's go. Let's share that screen. And first and foremost, as we always do, we recap the last event. And the last event, official betting wise, was UFC 265, which took place 2 weekends ago. 2 weekends ago. Lock of the night play comes through 5 units on the under 1.5 in Cyril Gane and Derek Lewis, minus 180. I thought that was a great line. A lot of people getting into that belief that Cyril Gane is strictly just a decision fighter, but they failed to realize how out of, how confused and how out of the water or fish out of water Derek Lewis looks when fights start to go late and he's getting picked apart. It's like he always has that opportunity to come back and potentially knock you out. And all people remember is him getting those comeback knockouts, but they quickly forget like those lulls between his blitz attacks that he looks like absolute shit. And Gane had the perfect game plan to go out there and slowly chip away at Derek Lewis. And I called it. I called third round TKO Ciryl Gane, and he was able to get it done late in that round, thankfully cashing the under 4.5 ticket. I had some people that were messaging me as the fight was going on saying, ooh, this is not looking too good. And I'm like, keep your faith, people. Like, we know that, like, I predicted a third round TKO. I thought at worst it would go to the fourth round. And I thought that Ciryl Gane was doing exactly what he needed to do to stay away from the big power of Derek Lewis and then eventually find that finishing sequence, which he did at the ending of the third round. So lock of the night play hits there. I believe that's 2 straight lock of the night hits that we have now. The last one being Cheyenne buys, and I'm hoping to get a third one going this weekend, which I actually just posted on the Patreon a couple hours ago, and will be free for the public on Friday evening. So wait until Friday, and that's when you guys will get the lock of the night plays. And then quickly just wrapping up the recap here. Under 2.5 in the Ode Osborne and Manel Cap fight. Possible early stoppage for Manel Cap, but I'll take it regardless for that under 2.5 hit, that violence bet. That's plus 1.8 units as we took a unit and a half stab at plus 120. So happy to hit that. And we sweep the card on 2 plays there, plus 4.58 units, 70% ROI. Very happy with my performance on that card. And that is just a quintessential lock of the night type of night. And I'm hoping that I can keep it going into this weekend at UFC Vegas 34, as I do already have a lock of the night played for 4 units and a dog of the night play for 1 unit. Hopefully both of those come through as well. But UFC Vegas UFC 265, all in all, is a solid hit for us. And hopefully we can parlay into something proper here. Let's see what the chat is saying, and then we'll keep this moving along. Charlie Nunn saying, Dad. I am definitely daddy in the Patreon Discord. I love you guys. Mace, Marcus Henry, Guerder, and Magomedov, the 2 that screwed me. Ooh, I heard the Guerder decision was bad. I didn't watch that fight. And then Magomedov, yeah, Stotts is a stud. Guerder got robbed. Yeah, that's what I heard. Ben Peak saying, no, I called they're on TKO lock for Gane. You did initially, and I eventually came around to it. Charlie Nunn with the $5 dono. Appreciate you dropping that for me, my guy. If I'm not mistaken, my guy's already a Patreon subscriber as well. So nothing but love for my guy Charlie here, and I really appreciate you, the real MVP, for supporting you, boy. I appreciate it. Marcus Henry, Magomedov was trash. I couldn't believe it. Again, I got to go back and watch that fight. I haven't seen it at all, but I heard it was a very fun fight. Stefano is saying Magomedov was overrated. Stotts was underrated. Yeah, that's definitely what happened. Stotts just good. He is. Marcus Henry, those daggies usually smash. Yeah. Charlie Nunn. Yes, that is definitely Mr. PFL Ben Peak. That's in the chat here. All right, let's keep this thing moving along. Where is it? There we go. First fight of the night. Ramiz Brahimaj versus Sasha Palatnikov. Actually, before I actually get into this, I did say on Twitter a couple days ago that I'm going to go to a sports book and bet $50 on every single fight, whether it's an over/under or a straight play on a bet or on a fighter. I will share those tickets with you guys on the Ultimate Weigh-In Show on Friday. So I'm going to go from the weigh-ins. I got to go get a COVID test that same day after the weigh-ins. Then I'm going to go to Circus Sports, make my bets, and then I'm going to do my Ultimate Weigh-In Show from there at the sportsbook, and I'll share my ticket with you guys for every single fight that I go over. And hopefully my guest, whoever it may be, will be able to share some bet slips of their own. But I'm really looking forward to that part of the trip. All right. Like I said, first fight of the night, but Ramiz Brahimaj versus Sasha Palatnikov. We got minus 130 on Brahimaj and plus 110 on Sasha Palatnikov. Now, Brahimaj, obviously, a lot of people know him for getting his ear ripped off the last time against Max Griffin, but he did not really show much of what he's known to do, which is, go out there, land some takedowns, and really get your jiu-jitsu going. The guy is a wizard when it comes to the ground game, and especially looking for subs and being very offensive on the ground as well. We saw none of that in the Max Griffin fight. And we have to, in part, credit Max Griffin for maintaining the distance like he did on his feet, having as much significant strike success as he had, really putting on Ramiz there and just not really letting up, eventually finishing him in that third round. I believe we see a different Ramiz here. I think we see the Ramiz from, the regional tape, where he goes out there, seeks the takedown, and really starts to look for a sub. And luckily for him, I don't believe too much in Sasha Palatnikov's takedown defense, which is why I believe that Ramiz will be successful in dragging this fight to the ground and eventually finding a submission. My issue, though, is if Ramiz is not able to get the submission within 6 or 7 minutes here, his gas tank has definitely looked fishy in the past. And I feel as though Sasha Palatnikov is one of those guys that can take advantage of that, just as we saw in the Luis Cosi fight. With that said, I don't think that Ramiz's cardio is as bad as Luis Cosi, but he definitely does slow down later in fights, and he's definitely not as effective as he is earlier in fights. With Sasha, I think he's going to be the better striker. I think he'll have a tremendous success if this fight does stay in the stand-up realm, but I don't know if he's going to have that ability to knock out Ramiz in this spot, especially considering how much damage Ramiz has been able to take in the past without getting knocked out, other than having his ear ripped from his freaking head like Max Griffin did last time around. I think Brahimaj has some decent potential. He could be a top 20, top 15 guy in the UFC if he can really put it together. But I think that, his cardio is definitely going to need work, especially if he's not able to put away opponents early in his fights as he normally does. I'm still going to go with Brahimaj here. I'm going to take him by submission, probably first or second round. But the later this goes, if Sasha Palatnikov is still surviving and, going into the third round, he's a big underdog. And you could make a case for him that he won either of the first rounds. I would probably put a live bet on Sasha Palatnikov, as I do think that he'll be the one that has more success in the third round of this fight. But yeah, I'm going Brahimaj. I would say first round submission. The under 2.5, not too bad of a spot here either. So I think that's the spot that I'm going to be attacking for this fight when I do end up making those $50 bet slips later this week. So I'm going Brahimaj by decision. Let's see. Ryan Grant saying Ramiz is value for me personally, especially with how Griffin has looked. Yes. Charlie is saying you can parlay Yan, Shevchenko, and Makhachev minus 115 on Caesars. About better. Good luck. Every fight like that is rough. I do it every card, every event. Yeah. For me, it's more so just having that investment in every single fight on the card. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to have those bet slips in my hand, sweating out these tickets live while I'm there. So, I'm not expecting it to be a fucking crazy moneymaker for me, in terms of these for fun bets. Obviously, I'm hoping that the bets I'm making on my bookies online are the ones that actually end up cashing, because those are definitely the bigger money plays. Dirty Reg saying Ramiz is sub robust. No way I'm banking on that. Yeah, it's hard for me to bank on a guy that has limited time to get a fight done and has a narrow path to victory. Palatnikov has shown he's tough, but can he get away from the grappling and the submission game of Ramiz? I don't think so. Ben Peak is saying, I like the under on this fight. I can see Ramiz getting the sub or Sasha being able to box him up as the fight goes on. Exactly. I like the under as well. Dirty Reg saying 2 fights back, Sasha showed his chops in the UFC. That's good enough for me. Yeah, the Kosi fight was an interesting one for sure. Anki Uriah, Sasha round 3 prop odds. I think it'd be worth a bit of a stab. Again, I don't think that Brahimaj is going to slow down as much as Luis Kosi, but it could be live here. Let's see what the odds are. Palatnikov round 3 plus 1,200. Again, I thought it would be a little bit wider, but again, those odds are pretty good as well. PSSA saying you have to wear a colorful shirt so it's easier to spot you on TV. I will more than likely be wearing a white shirt, turban. We're all going to be masked up as well. That's something that they actually just released on the itinerary. Everybody, all fans are expected to be masked up as we're in the Apex. So you won't see my face exactly, but you'll definitely see me as the only turbaned guy in the fucking venue, unless somebody surprises me somehow. But yeah, you'll be able to spot me like that. All right, let's move on to the next fight. Like I said, I got Brahimaj round 1 or round 2 submission, but I'm going to be betting the under 2.5 as one of those $50 tickets that I'm going to be making. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Roosevelt Roberts going up against Ignacio Bahamondes, minus 145 on Roberts and plus 125 on Bahamondes. I really think that this is a buy low spot for Roosevelt Roberts. Now, let's look back at his last several fights. 3 out of his last 5 fights, or actually 4 out of his last 5 fights, he's the huge favorite. More often than not, he's the biggest favorite on the card, right? Minus 245 against Pichel. Shit's bad, but Pichel heavily underrated in that fight and still has the chops to go out there and be very competitive, as we've been seeing over his last couple of fights. And he also fights later on this card. Minus 390 against Brock Weaver, minus 265 against Jim Miller. Makes a fight IQ gaff in that fight, which I'm sure he learned a lot from. And I think that's definitely a mistake that he's going to look to fix moving forward. But I don't think that you guys can just crucify him and put him over the fire just because of that one Jim Miller gaff. We know Jim Miller has a nasty jiu-jitsu game, and he was lucky enough to get Roosevelt Roberts into that situation, and he took full advantage of it. Kevin Kroom, minus 600 favorite. Roosevelt Roberts absolutely underestimates Kevin Kroom. I believe he didn't think Kevin Kroom had anything to do or anything to give to him in terms of resistance. And I think he overlooked that and ends up getting clubbed and subbed. So I'm willing to forgive him for those last 2 performances. I believe the kid still has a lot of talent. I think he can absolutely fulfill the potential that a lot of people believed he had, especially going into that Vince Pichel fight. He's 27 years old. He's only been training for a couple years, right? He's only been training, if I'm not mistaken, since like 2015, 2014 is when he started MMA. But he's picking up everything very, very well. It's just a couple mistakes that he's made that I feel like he's going to be able to shore up, learn from. They're going to be great for him in his career. And then he's going to be able to move forward and start to, again, fulfill that potential that a lot of people expected him to have. Bahamondes on the other side falls flat in his UFC debut as a minus 200 favorite against John Makdessi, where he's just getting touched up by a much smaller fighter. I believe Makdessi was 5'8", so he had about a 4-7 inch height advantage. I could be off on that with my math. 5'8", 4'5", 6", so 6 to 7 inch height advantage for Bahamondes in that fight, as well as a significant reach advantage. But Bahamondes could do nothing in terms of being able to control that distance well enough to keep Makdessi off of him, which is why he ended up losing that fight. The Salvador Bachera fight, 3 fights earlier, similar fight where he just can't maintain the distance. Luckily for him, Edson Gomez, he's able to go out there and maintain the distance against a much smaller opponent. If I'm not mistaken, Gomez also came in on short notice, and Bahamondes was able to do work there and earn himself a contract on the in the UFC. But even the Charlie Brown fight seems to have issues in that fight, kind of maintaining distance. Now, Roosevelt Roberts is used to being the guy that's taller in his fights too, right? He's 6'2", 73-inch reach. He normally maintains distance quite well himself, but I think that he's going to, have to figure out a way to close the distance here against Bahamondes. However, I don't think it's going to be that difficult for him to do so, as we've seen guys much shorter have as much success as I believe Roosevelt Roberts will have against Bahamondes. Not to mention, I think that Roosevelt Roberts could drag this fight to the ground. I think that he has good enough takedowns here to get Bahamondes to the ground and start working a slick submission game. People are absolutely writing off Roosevelt Roberts here just because he got submitted by Jim Miller, but I still think he has some very good jiu-jitsu skills of his own, not to mention that high elbow guillotine that he normally lands on a lot of people, especially I think he did against Darrell Horcher last time around. I think his striking is good enough that he should be able to touch up Bahamondes. The only concern is if this fight goes 50 minutes, Bahamondes might be up in terms of the volume, but I think the significant strikes are going to be on the side of Roosevelt Roberts. Not to mention, I think that Roberts does land takedowns as well, and I think that will definitely play into the judges' minds too. So I do like Roberts here. I think he's going to completely cover this minus 145. I think he's going to start to look closer to minus 200, minus 250 as this fight starts to transpire. But yeah, I like Roberts. Definitely in the running, one of my top 4 picks on the card, money line wise, but I really do like Roberts here. And I think he shows why he was highly touted just a couple fights ago, and why he should still be seen as one of those guys that's going to be one of those or one of those prospects that is close to fulfilling his potential. So I do like Roosevelt here. possible submission. I believe 2 out of the 4 submission or losses for Ignacio Bahamondes have come via submission. And I think that Roberts has a slick enough jiu-jitsu game that he could potentially find Ignacio in one of those submissions too. Official pick is going to be Royval by decision, but I wouldn't mind poking that submission prop if it's good enough. Let's see what actually sits out right now. So we got Roberts by decision is plus 180, Roberts by submission plus 325. But again, even his money line I think is decent enough at minus 145. So I'm going Roberts via decision. Ryan Grant is hammering Roberts. I like that play. Ric Flair, Roberts, good hand speed. I agree. Hafkin saying really not that high on Bahamondes, is going to go quite heavily on Roberts at a very good price considering how juiced he's been in the past. Exactly. Lost Prefect is saying, what up, fool? Roberts going to take Bahamondes down easily. I think so. Whoever thumbs down, small PP energy. Brandon Ortega, you know I always got some fucking haters out there. There's always the haters out there, but it's guys like you that definitely make it a lot worth it by showing your boys some support every single time out. Brandon, also whomever just here for info, but can't like cold-blooded. Yeah, exactly. Kawabunga, 100% takedown defense for Bahamondes means little to nothing. Look who he fought in the UFC stylistically. Not pulling the trigger just yet, but I truly think this is a winnable fight for Roberts. I agree. It's very difficult to extract any type of legitimate information from Bahamondes, the statistics that they have on UFC stats, considering they only have 2 fights that they're actually leaning on, right? They have the Edson Gomez fight and they have the John McDessie fight. So, statistics are going to be absolutely skewed for Ignacio. So I don't think that you can really look into that narrative too much. Chris, for the love of MMA, already knows what's going on. He already knows. Ben Peak saying Roberts, can he win mainly by his boxing in this matchup? Again, I think his grappling too. His grappling should give him tremendous success in the spot. G Momon one. What's going on, my brother? Appreciate you stopping by. If you're going to be watching the whole show, make sure you hop onto the YouTube side of things. YouTube is a lot livelier in the chat, especially if you want to converse with some of these savages in the chat. Uncle Uriah saying Royval Roberts, first or second round sub. I can see it. I like it. Chris is saying, excuse me, Chris, yeah, Roberts by sub. Best value. I like it. Decision or sub Roberts. I like it. Brandon Ortega, honestly, any 23-year-old fighter, UFC fighter in my eyes, only has room to grow, and the judges see that. I don't know, but watch a split decision. Bahamondes could absolutely make improvements himself. But again, 15 fights into his career, that still seems like he has issues, utilizing that distance and, not get hit. He just keeps getting hit. And I think that Roberts has slick enough boxing that he should be able to light up Ignacio and then start mixing in takedowns when he needs it. PSSA 31, appreciate the $5 donation here. Money for In-N-Out animal style fries at the link. I don't think I've ever had animal style fries, and I keep hearing about it. So if there is an In-N-Out on the strip, I will make sure to hit it. I did hit In-N-Out when I went to UFC 121 way back in 2010, but I don't remember. That's over 11 years ago when I visited LA for one of the fights over there, and I don't remember how it tastes at all. So, and I'm pretty certain I didn't get animal style fries either because I only heard about it recently. So I can't wait for that. Shout out to PSSA for the dono and working towards that MMA lock of the night food fund for Vegas. Okay, in the chat, appreciate you stopping by. Anaconda Bets, what's up, my brother? Brandon Ortega, aka Suck My Dong. Dirty Reg 22 saying I'm on Ignacio. I'm feeling I need to switch to Roberts. I won't play it. Fireball and popcorn fight for me. I could see the angle for Bahamondes as well. I think it's the volume that kind of scares me in case Roberts doesn't look to go to the grappling. But if he does, I think this fight is definitely in his style. About better, the stats for the main and co-main are always skewed. Yes. Tiffany Shriver, luckily, I thank you for all the great content. Thank you for all the great support. About better, animal style is a must. Best fries and fast food. Okay, jeez. What's so good about them? Are they shaped like animals? Is it like fucking animal spaghetti soup or whatever? Animal pasta soup. Thanks for the content, man. This is great. Appreciate Liberts. dropping by. Kawabunga saying try in and out again, lock, tremendous burger. All right. Shake Shack and In and Out. Those are two spots that I definitely got to hit up while I'm out there. All right, let's move on to the next fight. And again, the final prediction for this fight is going to be Roberts by decision, but I could definitely see him pulling off a sneaky sub if it shows itself. All right, next fight. We got Fabio Cherant going up against William Knight, minus 185 on William Knight, plus 160 on Fabio Cherant. Now, the line is starting to come in as people do believe that the line was too wide to begin with. Minus 275 is what William Knight opened up at and has been it got quickly bet down to around that minus 225 mark. And over the last week or so, we saw it stay steady. And over the last couple of days, it started to close now. Now, both guys seem kind of limited in their skill sets. Fabio Cherant has a decent submission game, but it seems like he's a little bit too lackadaisical in the striking realm. Almost allows his opponent to kind of dictate the pace, and then he decides to turn it on when it might be a little bit too late. He's gone 25 minutes in the past. I believe against Myron Dennis was the last time he did. That was 2 fights ago for LFA, where he was able to capture the light heavyweight title before getting signed to the UFC on short notice and getting Von Prude by Alonzo Menefield. And I think that there's a ton of that recency bias from people seeing Alonzo Menefield, a guy that normally doesn't get submissions, get a Von Prude out of anything, out of all things, against a guy like Fabio Cherant. So a lot of people are low on him. But again, William Knight doesn't really bring too much to the table either. Seems like a clinch fucker, wants to put you up against the cage, drag you to the ground if possible, but really overwhelm you with his strength and his size and try to just nullify you. It did not work for him last time around against Dao Un Jung, where Jung was the one actually having grappling success. It seemed like he packed his wrestling singlet en route to Las Vegas that time and was able to get that decision victory. I believe that fight was in Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. With that said, William Knight does not look good last time around. His gas tank did not look good either. And I think that it's going to come down to gas tanks here, because this will be a fight, I believe, that's going to be highly contested in the clinch realm, in the grappling realm. And both guys are going to be working a lot to kind of jockey and adjust for a position. But I do think that, all week I've been making my predictions that it's going to be Fabio Cherant, just based on line value. But with the line starting to close the way that it is, it's a little bit difficult to pick this fight. I think the spot to go would be the over 1.5 at minus 150. I know it's a little bit chalky, but I do feel as though that this fight will get pushed and slowly get pushed over that 1.5 round mark, 7.5 minutes. I do think that we see it go over. And I think that whoever wins here, I think it could come via decision. Now you got William Knight via decision sitting at plus 320. Fabio Cherant winning by decision at plus 450. I think one of those guys will end up getting the decision. I am going to go with the Cherant side of things. Again, I do think that he'll do a good enough job in terms of nullifying the clinch fucking from William Knight, being able to reverse it, and maybe even trying to, threaten with a couple of submissions to make William Knight kind of think about whatever game plan that he's coming in with. And then in the striking realm, again, I don't think either guy has a massive advantage. I do lean on the Fabio Cherant side there as well. No big lean in the spot. Probably the fight that I would look to fade the most the entire night. I'm just going to go with the over 1.5 and call it a day, but I'm going to go with the Cherant side. I'd rather hold a plus 160 ticket in a spot like this rather than the minus 185 on William Knight. Don't parlay William Knight. That's all I'm going to say. But I do like Fabio here. Not confident enough to actually make him my dog of the night play, which is why, like I said, I'm going to be ultimately sticking with the over 1.5. So I'm going Fabio Cherant via decision. All right, let's see. Cowabunga is saying, is William Knight this week's Rafa Garcia, Kyle Phillips, betcher? It could be, I don't think William Knight is a minus 200 talent against almost anybody, even a Fabio Cherant. So be very careful here. Dirty Reg saying one guy, 8 out of 9 wins by KO. The other guy, no KO wins in 9 fights at light heavyweight. Right? Such a weird fucking fight. Butt bear's on the head right here. Dog or pass. I absolutely agree. Hafikin saying, don't think Knight should be minus 200 versus anyone in the UFC. Cherant isn't great, but I like his grappling game better than Knight. I'll take a punt on him for pure value purposes. I don't hate that at all. Dirty Reg saying value means nothing on a losing pick. Be careful. That is a whole nother discussion in itself, so I'm not even going to bother getting into that. All right, I'm taking Cherant. Cherant by decision over 1.5 is the spot that I like the most. Let's move on to the next fight. We got Malecki coming in at -155, welcoming Josiane Nunes to the UFC as a +135 dog. And if you guys remember, Nunes was scheduled to fight Zara Farn a couple months ago, actually, or a couple weeks ago. Farn absolutely botches her weight cut. They canceled the fight, and Josiane Nunes had to wait a couple more weeks to step inside the cage. But here she comes against Malecki, who is kind of a similar fighter to Zara Farn, but probably has better credentials in the striking realm and is probably a little bit more reliable than what Zara Farn was bringing to the table. I know Zara was the slight underdog in that fight around +105, +110, and now you're getting some chalk here with Malecki, but I think it's deserved, as I do think that Malecki should win this fight. Um, I never would, suggest ever betting a girl that's 2-0 or something. I believe on SureDog she's actually listed as 4-0. I don't know why Tapology has it as 2-0. I'm sticking with Tapology. She could be 4-0. There's even one of her fights where it seems like Tapology has it as an amateur fight, where SureDog has it as a pro fight. But I've watched it all. There are some concerns with the fact that Malecki could potentially get taken down and grinded out, but that's not really Josiane Nunes' style. If you guys watch her fight, she likes to go out there and throw bungalows and tries to knock you out. And the only time the fight ever gets into grappling scenarios and sequences is when her opponent starts to engage in that aspect. She has shown decent ability to kind of reverse and get some good shots from on top, but she doesn't look like a killer by any means when it comes to the ground game. I think we are seeing improvements from Malecki. She has shown off some submission attempts, and obviously got that submission over Duda. Santana has a submission win on her amateur scene as well. But we do need to see more improvements from her before we can be like, okay, she really has this ground game down. I think if she does get the fight to the ground against Josiane Nunes, I don't think she'll be in much trouble in terms of getting reversed or getting armbarred from guard or anything like that. And I think that her size and her strength may be too much for Nunes to handle in this spot. But I do expect this fight to play out on the feet for the most part, and I think from there, Malecki is going to have pretty much all the advantages. Now, if you look at just that Veronica Macedo fight, you're going to be like, oh, Macedo was landing some good shots on her, considering even though she was, the much smaller fighter in that. So why won't Josiane Nunes have that similar success? There's a difference with how Macedo fights and how Nunes fights. Macedo is a little bit more hoppy, a little bit more, energetic, and a little bit more, in and out with her movements, really likes to blitz a lot. Whereas Josiane Nunes looks a little bit more flat footed. She does have her blitz attacks every now and then, but definitely not to the level of Veronica Macedo. Josiane Nunes, for the most part, looks like she's losing a lot of her fights before her opponents actually gas out and then she starts to take over. I don't think she's going to have that benefit here, as Malecki does seem to have a solid gas tank of her own, and she should be able to go a full 50 minutes if she doesn't get the knockout early here. I think the sneaky play here is actually the under. I do like Malecki in this spot. I do think that she could find the finish as well. And I think that if this fight does get into the tight clinch position and Malecki is able to get those knees off, I think she will have tremendous success landing big shots on Josiane Nunes that could potentially drop Nunes and she could get the finish. I like Malecki quite a lot in this spot. Again, it would be nice to see her have a little bit better control of the distance, but when she's really in her groove and when she's really on, I do think that she looks like a really good fighter, and I think she could plan out to be a damn good fighter as well, especially considering she's only 29 years old. Again, Nunes' path to victory in this spot: close the distance, land big shots on Malecki, possibly engage in grappling, but again, it's not anything that I can truly say that I've seen on tape enough that I can rely on Nunes to go out there and just consistently land takedowns in this fight. And again, you got to give the benefit of the doubt to Malecki in the fact that she's got to be working on her ground game, right? Working on the submissions off her back or trying to get back to her feet. And again, with the massive size advantage here, I'd be surprised if she gets stuck on bottom against a girl like Josiane Nunes. So I like Malecki here. I actually even like Malecki by finish. I'm going to take Malecki inside the distance. The under 2.5 is another spot that I'll probably take a little bit of a crack on, but I do like Malecki in this spot, and I think she's deservedly favored, and I do think that she gets it done in pretty spectacular fashion here against Josiane Nunes, who I don't think is UFC level and has been benefiting from the fact that she trains at a gym like Astra Fight Team, and a lot of people know that team is kind of synonymous with kind of just padding a lot of their fighters' records before they get to the UFC, and then we truly see what their true colors are. Tyler Santos is from that team as well, and she seems to be panning out to be a very solid fighter. I just don't think that Josiane Nunes is at that level or has that type of potential. Funny enough, Josiane Nunes' only loss comes to Tyler Santos, and it's after that fight that she decides to go down to Astra Fight Team and change things up. But still, don't see enough from her that leads me to believe that she should beat a girl like Bea Malecki. All right. Let's move on to the actually let's see what the chat is saying here. Justin Villegas saying I like turtles. Okay. Chris for the Love MMA saying agree, was being told to make Knight a parlay piece from people I respect, but not fully sold either. I agree. Dirty Reg, I can give you plus 1 million. You lose the best. It's still a goose egg. Chris for the Love, I love Lamp. You guys are crazy. Bea, a butterface. She does have an OnlyFans. Women, MMA, and experience. No, thank you. I agree. Again, I think she's a world Muay Thai champ as well too, so we definitely have to take that into consideration. African, Bea Malecki, Bea Moneyline if I had to pick, absolute unit, to be honest. Yeah, I think she's going to look really good here. African, although underdogs and unranked women's MMA have been kind to my bankroll before. Nunes, I don't know if Nunes could do it. Bea damn near a foot taller. That's the play. I agree. I'd probably go 0.25 Bea by decision for a sprinkle, but that's it. Justin T, I think Josiane might be a Bea OnlyFans. So, inside info, possibly. They're doing that horror tape study. Chris, the reach will be too hard to get inside on the feed. Most likely, I agree. Uncle Weezy in the house. Shout out to my guy Uncle Weezy. These ladies, Nunes has been beating our complete bums. Yep. Just look at that. Look at that topology record for these ladies. You'll know exactly what he's talking about. About better not go the distance. Prop is going to be chalk. If it's plus money, I'm on it. Is it chalk? You know what? Under 2.5 is plus 135, plus 125. Fight doesn't go to decision, plus 110. I think that's a solid spot. The Dab Father in the chat. Appreciate you stopping by, my guy. Chris saying I just can't bet this fight, but yeah, I'd agree. I'd say the draft wins for sure. King Thing 4 is saying Nunes' last fights are from PFL. No, it was on the regional scene. Brazilian regional scene. Cowabunga, that reach size discrepancy is nutty. Yeah, that's crazy. It's going to be hilarious seeing these women square off with each other. All right. Let's see. All the smoke saying if she hits the second round KO for me, I was sub to her OnlyFans. I think that's a good trade off. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We got Domingo Pilarte plus 150 going up against Brian Boom Kelleher minus 170. Another spot that I feel quite heavily in favor of Brian Kelleher. I feel very strongly about him here. Now, Domingo Pilarte was one of those guys that I was kind of honey-dicked into thinking that he was the goods, but it doesn't seem like he's really rounding out his striking game enough. It doesn't really seem like he's, it seems like he's decent on the ground, but when he's the one landing takedowns and kind of just staying on top of his opponents, he doesn't seem to do the best job in terms of passing guard or really threatening with crazy submissions in those spots. The Vince Morales fight, getting absolutely beat on in the latter half of that first round. I believe if it was Brian Kelleher landing those shots, Kelleher probably gets him out of there. But then luckily for Domingo, he's able to pull off a submission victory in that second round to make that comeback. His striking looks very rudimentary, man. It looks like he literally just has a left high kick and he has a left hand down the middle from his southpaw stance. That's about it. He has some decent power when he throws them, but he's a little bit wild with those strikes. So if he goes out there and decides to make this a stand-up fight with Brian Kelleher, I think he's going to be in a world of hurt in this spot. Not to mention, there's been plenty of times where it looks like he looks absolutely gassed to shit in his fights. Luckily for him in that Felipe Colares fight, he was able to get that back position against Colares and just ride it out where we didn't really get to see his gas tank issues, but he had a lot of time to truly rest and just cling on to that body triangle and to stay on the back of Felipe Colares. I feel like if he was pushed in those situations, we would definitely see those cardio issues show up. Like, I'm talking bad cardio issues, and it could have been earlier from his career, don't get me wrong, but like bad to the point where he's putting his hands on his knees and, bending over to try to catch a breath in the middle of a round. Like, it's not a good look at all. You will not have a moment to rest with a guy like Brian Kelleher. Kelleher will be remaining active on the feet. I like his volume, his consistency with leg kicks and kicks up the middle, and then eventually following up with some punches. Not to mention, Kelleher is the much better striker in the spot. And I think that Kelleher's jiu-jitsu is good enough to stay out of any trouble here against Pilarte. Now, Pilarte does have a decent submission game, like I said, when he gets to those positions, but I don't think he's going to be able to get to those positions here against Brian Kelleher. I did go on Kelleher's IG live that he had a couple days ago. And I asked him what his thoughts on Domingo Pilarte's wrestling was, and he believes the fact that Pilarte has such a height advantage in this fight, it's going to be harder for Pilarte to implement that grapple-heavy game plan if that's what he chooses to do here against Kelleher. We obviously know, a lot of people that know the technical aspects of wrestling, the lower the hips on the entries of your takedowns, the better of a chance that you're going to have in terms of complete takedowns. And good luck having lower hips than a guy that you're 6 inches taller than, 5 inches taller than. And completing those takedowns. Kelleher has shown decent takedown defense at times, but we definitely know the threat of his guillotine is something that's going to be on Pilarte's mind. So it's going to be interesting to see how Pilarte decides to kind of close that distance if that's how he's going to attack this fight. But if he goes out there and tries to outstrike Brian Kelleher, that's not going to be good news either, because again, he is a little bit too wide, and I feel at a certain point, Brian Kelleher will be able to find that boom, and he should be able to knock him out. I am going to be taking Kelleher inside the distance. Plus 125 is the last spot that I saw. I don't want to get too greedy and pick a specific method here with, a knockout or submission, because I think he's live for either here, whether it's a guillotine from a desperation takedown from Domingo Pilarte, whether it's a club and sub situation, or even Brian Kelleher knocking him out on the feet. I don't want to completely write off Domingo Pilarte just because he got knocked out by Jerry Newson in his last fight. But the guy seems like he has a ton of holes in his game, and I feel like he's going to have some trouble dealing with a wily veteran, a 34-fight veteran, and Brian Kelleher here. So I think Kelleher will do a good enough job in terms of maintaining this fight, or at least maintaining and allowing it to take place on the feet. And then after that, he should let his hands go, and it should result in a knockout victory. So I'm going Brian Kelleher. I feel quite strongly about him as well, and I'm going to take him by second round KO. I wouldn't even mind a possible Kelleher round 3 sprinkle here either, as I do believe that Pilarte does have some cardio issues that will show its head this weekend. The under 2.5 is minus 165, which isn't a bad spot either, in case you guys are concerned about the fact that Pilarte could lock up a sub of some sort. It would be covered in the under 2.5. And even the fight doesn't go to decision, minus 175, not too far off either. I'd be surprised if this fight goes to the judges, and I'd be surprised if it's not Kelleher getting his hand raised inside the distance here. It doesn't seem like Best Fight Odds actually has the round props posted yet for this fight. So if anybody has access to that round 3, Brian Kelleher, please do let me know what it is so I can consider it. But yeah, I like Brian Kelleher in this spot. All right, let's see what the chat is saying. Better is saying, are we overestimating Kelleher? Pre-tape, I think so. Like I was definitely one of those guys. Like, why is Brian Kelleher, the solid favorite in this spot? But when you really start to dig into the tape, you can see where he should shine, and you see the flaws that Domingo Pilarte has. Now, I know he has a split decision victory over Adrian Yanez that a lot of people might be putting some stock into, but man, that was not a good fight. Like, I thought that Yanez did enough to win that fight, and Yanez was damn close to finishing and stopping Pilarte at the ending of that third round. The referee had made the decision to stop the fight, was going in to stop the fight, and Pilarte shoots a takedown, lands a takedown, and luckily is able to save his ass in that fight. But man, I think if it's Brian Kelleher unloading on him, Domingo Pilarte is going down. He does not react well to getting hit, not at all. Charlie Nunn saying, Lock, no concerns with the length and height advantages for Pilarte. Not at all. Again, I don't think he does the best in terms of maintaining that, especially when he's striking. He gets a little bit too wild. I think Kelleher will see right through that and be able to land some beautiful counters and put this guy on his butt. Brandon Ortega with the $10 donation. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the support. He's saying, for the love of Lock of the Night, need more Clint Lock of the Night mashups. Yeah, I love doing those shows with my guy Clint. I wish we could carve out a time where we could actually do a weekly show together, but he's got a busy schedule. I got a bit of a busy schedule, but hopefully it's something that we can eventually do in the very near future, because I know a lot of people enjoy that mashup that we do. Bet Better saying Kelleher has no striking defense. I kind of disagree. He's durable as fuck. That's definitely for sure. I definitely believe he can take a shot. I don't think Pilarte will be able to put his lights out. That part I got to make down to Houston for one of the big cards lock. Yeah, I'm going to be going to 266 in Vegas. But yeah, one of those days I'll definitely go down to either Houston or Phoenix or something like that, wherever they're holding these cards. Ben Peak, the over in this matchup is 2.5 rounds plus 140, and the under is minus 170 thoughts. I like the under. I like the under. I think both guys have finishing capabilities. Pilarte more so by sub than anything, and then Kelleher by knockout or sub, club and sub situations. I like the under here. I do like it. Cowabunga saying you're onto something about better Kelleher fights to his opponents and always takes plenty of damage. Again, very durable. And again, I don't think that Pilarte is on the level of any of the guys that Kelleher has fought outside of Ray Rodriguez. I think that Domingo would probably destroy Ray Rodriguez, but I think he loses to all those other guys. You know, Cody Stamen, Ricky Simone, great wrestlers, but solid striking as well. Very good knowledge of the striking realm for those guys, which is why they were able to get the victories over Brian Kelleher. You know, Ricky Simone did lean on the wrestling, but he's definitely one of the best wrestlers, top 2, top 3 wrestlers in the 135-pound division. So that's not a shame at all. Cody Stamen, very good wrestler himself, but very good striking as well. So he had the threat of the takedowns and the striking in that fight. Domingo Pilarte, again, decent wrestler, but a lack of understanding and comfortability in the striking will cost him in this fight. And I think that Brian Kelleher can expose that. Africans saying Kelleher inside the distance has KO submission upside versus a guy who guesses bad. Also sprinkling Kelleher round 2, round 3. I'll be right there with you. Cowabunga, I wanted to parlay Kelleher, Knight, and Madsen. When I first saw these matchups lines, from a betting perspective, that's a huge red flag. Might fade all 3. I'm definitely fading the latter 2, and you'll hear more about the last name that you said on there when we get to the co-main event. Ric Flair, the reach advantage is tough to deal with. Not with the guy with Domingo, like Domingo Pilarte. I don't think that he does too well in terms of maintaining that distance intelligently. Great for Dude. Boom. I agree. Cowabunga is still fairly confident in Kelleher. Yes, sir. Hefkin, I think we have been on the same for almost every single pick. Great Toronto area gang. GTA in the house. I love it. But better. I'm more familiar with Kelleher's skill set, so I'm not clear in my judgment. Yeah, look into Domingo, brother. You'll see the flaws that I saw after running the tape here. Monk Matic, Pilarte's strength of schedule is hot garbage at 0.53. Yeah, I agree. I think he's in for a rough night here. Justin Villegas, I think this is the Brian Kelleher to lose. But man, if that Adrian Yanez on Pilarte win column, hard to ignore. Again, watch that fight, brother. Watch that fight. I thought Yanez deserved to win that fight. Close fight. And that's also Yanez from 5 years ago, who's gotten much better. Obviously, you can say the same thing about Pilarte, but Pilarte's definitely not been competing as much as Yanez. And, he's been sitting out a lot of it. And if I'm not mistaken, he also had an injury to deal with too. Reach and takedown defense are 2 significant fight factors when fighting in the Apex. Yep. Good point. Dirty Reg, y'all talking Pilarte getting stopped and he hasn't been finished in 10 fights. Again, very close to getting finished against Yanez, very close to getting finished against Vince Morales. Kolaris couldn't finish him. Newsom obviously finished him, knocked his ass out last time around. I think Kelleher has the power to put his ass down. Uncle Uriah, Brian Kelleher's ball with some questionable tattoos and a long record. He's the Anthony Smith of this division. God damn, that is a great comparison. Great fucking comparison. Oh, I love it. Dirty Reg, Pilarte, taller, fresher, and never been finished. Again, got finished last time around. Dirty Reg, I do know Boom got the boom, got to avoid that. Finished by Newson, exactly. Pilarte, win over Giannis sticks out to me. If you watch that fight, I don't think it'll stick out to you that much. Yeah. Uncle Uriah was definitely on the head. I love that comment. That might be my favorite comment of the fucking week. All right. I got Kelleher here. I got him inside the distance, probably second round KO or club and sub. Just take the inside the distance or the under 2.5 because Pilarte could definitely pull off a sub of his own if that's what it comes down to. But I really like Kelleher here. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. We got Austin Lingo going up against Luis Saldana. Big money coming in on Austin Lingo all fight week. Let's see where he's sitting at now. Yeah, it's still plus 105. Luis Saldana was a minus 175 at the opener, and steadily money has come in on Austin Lingo. Now, this should be a striking matchup, right? Some people are thinking that Lingo is going to go out there and show off some of his grappling like he did in the Jacob Kilburn fight. However, I think people are failing to realize that Jordan Griffin is a much better grappler than Austin Lingo, which is why Jordan Griffin was having the amount of success that he had against Luis Saldana. I had money on Jordan Griffin that night, and I thought he won. I thought he was just, excuse me, I thought he was a solid underdog in that spot. I thought he was durable enough and good enough in his grappling that he should be able to nullify the striking of Luis Saldana. And I thought he did. I thought he had enough of an argument to win that fight. Luckily for Saldana, he comes out with a win on his or in his UFC debut. And now he gets to follow it up with a fun fight here against Austin Lingo. Should be a striker matchup again, unless Lingo wants to go to his grappling, but I don't think he'll be that successful in terms of implementing it. And I do like what Austin Lingo, or sorry, what Luis Saldana brings to the table on the feet here. The guy's a great striker, can strike off of his back foot, good combinations, good kicking ability, good ability to kind of keep his opponent at range and just letting his hands go after that. But he does have to worry about the Austin Lingo power coming his way here. Lingo, I still believe he has scary knockout power, even though he wasn't able to finish his last two opponents. I believe 4 out of the 6 fights before coming to the UFC were all finished within 35 seconds. The guy's able to quickly put away guys, but as the level of competition starts to go up, as the difficulty starts to go up, those finishes are going to be harder to come by, but you still can't look away from the amount of power that this guy is able to possess in some of his strikes. He was close to putting Jacob Kilburn away, who is, Kilburn's a very, very tough out for a lot of people. He may not win, but he's a very tough guy to put away. And Austin Lingo was close to putting him away on numerous occasions. If he lands cleanly here on Saldana, he could absolutely put his lights out, which is why I'm a little bit concerned here. Now, if you take that away, I think that Saldana absolutely cruises in the spot. I think even off of his back foot, he should be able to have tremendous success with his jab, with his kicks, and keeping Lingo on the outside and then sticking a move in and not really taking too much damage from Lingo here. I think Saldana has a decent grappling game of his own. I think he has some sneaky submissions if he needs it. But I'd be surprised if he actually looks to go to that to try to, nullify Austin Lingo in the spot. I expect it to stay on the feet for the majority of 15 minutes. I would take Saldana inside the distance, but Lingo looks very durable. Obviously, only 1 loss in his career, and he's never really looked like he's been close to being finished. I think Hubbard landed 1 good shot on him, but Lingo didn't really seem too fazed by it. And I'd be surprised if Saldana actually finds that knockout blow as well. People are high on fading Dana White Contender Series guys like Luis Saldana, and it probably would have came to fruition last time against Jordan Griffin, but I don't think it's going to come to fruition for all the people that were on Austin Lingo, especially driving the line down to that minus 125 where it's at now. I like Saldana here. Again, one of my stronger reads. As long as he doesn't get knocked out early here, I do think that he cruises and absolutely beats up Austin Lingo. Again, Lingo stalks his opponent, marches them down, at times cuts them off, but more often than not follows them. And that should be great for Luis Saldana, playing the matador in this spot and absolutely touching up the bull anytime the bull tries to close the distance. Counter well, stick the jab out there, land some kicks, maintain the distance as best as possible, and take home a decision victory. I'm going Luis Saldana in this spot. But I will absolutely recognize and state that Lingo could potentially knock him out as well. African saying not really sure on this fight. Have not opportunity to look into this one. We'll probably tell whatever your $50 play is. It will more than likely just be Saldana straight. Minus 125, I think, is a great line. DPS, I think this is an unpopular opinion, but I ran tape on Lingo and was unimpressed. Seems like he has just good power and that's it. Yeah. Again, he has good pressure. Like he does well in terms of moving forward, but I feel like he just needs to cut off the cage a little bit better rather than just continuously following his opponent, which is exactly what Luis Saldana would want him to do. About better. So you already have 4 fights not going the distance. Is that true? I think Roberts could finish Bahamondes, but I'm taking that fight by decision. I think Brahimaj finishes Palatnikov. I think Malecki finishes Nunes. I think Cherant wins by decision, and I think Saldana wins by decision. Pilarte wins by Kelleher wins by knockout. So what is that? 1, 2, 3. 3 fights, I think, and inside the distance, with the possibility of the 4th with that Roosevelt's fight. Olajuwon Dream in the chat. Appreciate you stopping by, brother. Peter Cirillo in the chat. Brandon Ortega, Lingo, ugly knockout third round. Maybe. Peter Cerlo, Lingo by KO. I could see it. Ryan Grant saying Saldana all day, every day. Let's fucking go. I like that as well. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. I believe this is the first fight and the current, or yeah, I don't want to call it the curtain jerker. It is the first fight of the main card, and I would love to take this opportunity to remind you guys, the 94 to 100 of you guys that are currently in this chat. If you guys haven't already hit that like, please do hit that like, hit that subscribe as well if you haven't already. And if you want to support your boy even more, the Patreon link is in the description below. $5 a month, probably some of the best value you will get on the market for what you guys are getting on the Patreon there, not to mention the great Discord that we got going on there. Shout out to the Discord community. I know some of you are in the chat as well. Shout out to you guys. Truly appreciate the support. But yeah, if you don't even want to sign up to the Patreon, just hit the like. That's the least I ask you guys for sitting here on 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night breaking these fights down for you guys. All right. Very much looking forward to this fight here. Sorry. Chris Harm. T-shirt. No, I'm not doing t-shirt giveaways on this stream. I do have merch for sale though. If you guys want to go check that out, I have it in my pinned tweet on my Twitter account. All right, Alexandre Pantoja, Brandon Royval, easily my spot for fight of the night. Should be banger of the night. We got -165 on Pantoja, +145 on Brandon Royval, and I'm gonna start this breakdown as I do the entire week. Huge disclaimer. Alexandre Pantoja, yes, is the better fighter. Yes, is the more skilled fighter in almost every aspect of MMA in this fight. However, it's the craziness that Brandon Royval brings to the table that's hard for opponents to deal with. And I think that Pantoja will have some difficulty dealing with it as well. I think that Brandon Royval is super chaotic and thrives within that chaos and has tremendous success in igniting that chaos and lighting that fire of making a firefight out of his fights. We saw that crazy sequence in the Kai Kara France fight, the Tim Elliott fight, reversal after reversal, submission after submission attempt after submission attempt. Like, I think we're going to see the similar thing here with Alexandre Pantoja. But if you guys don't remember, it wasn't that long ago that a lot of people were saying that Alexandre Pantoja has some cardio issues. And that could be the case here, especially against a guy like Brandon Royval, who's going to push that cardio from his opponents. And, if Pantoja does have cardio issues, it will definitely show in this fight. But the spot that I actually took in this fight is the under 2.5 at +125. Now, both guys, most of their losses have come via decision, but they haven't fought each other. You know what I mean? And I think that Brandon Royval, given his chaotic style and the way that Alexandre Pantoja fights and the killer instinct that Pantoja has at times, will definitely come into play in this fight. And I think that we'll see Royval put himself into compromising situations that Pantoja will either take advantage of or think that he's taking advantage of and then get Brandon Royval at the end of the day. I am going to lean with Royval in this spot. I do think that he thrives within the chaos of this fight and then eventually finds a finish in the second round or maybe even the early third round of this fight if Pantoja truly starts to slow down. Again, I think there's finishing upside from either side, which is why I took the under 2.5. And ultimately speaking, if Royval does win this fight, I think it comes inside the distance. That's why I took the under 2.5 as well. +145 for him straight up is not too bad of a shot either. Again, he's one of these guys that will never be truly talented in certain aspects of MMA, but just the way he fights, he is a true fighter. He is a fighter that just lives for these types of fights, and I think that we'll see exactly that this weekend, and Pantoja may not be able to keep up with it. Again, I get it. Pantoja's the better fighter. You guys can rag on me all you want if that's who you guys are picking in this fight, but you can't look past the fact that Royval makes every fight a fucking dogfight. And I think he's going to do that here against Pantoja. Will Pantoja be able to keep up with it? I don't think so. So I'm going Royval here, second or third round club and sub, or just TKO. And then also possible round 3, Brandon Royval, sprinkle at +1600. I got to take the shot there as well. So I'm going raw dog by TKO or sub later in this fight. Under 2.5, I like as well. All right. See where the chat is at. Uncle Uri is still on the other fight saying Saldana's fight pick is in black and white and the man couldn't afford color photography. He needs this one to get finally out of the Stone Age. I should fix that. That's actually his picture from the Contender series. They've already updated with his new picture, so I actually have to update that on my graphics, but hilarious nonetheless. Brandon Ortega saying after a 2-week break and the last card, it'll be 8 finishes and 5. We'll see. Chris Lure hit the like. Thank you for that. Rick Flair saying great fight. I agree. Chris for the love MMA saying going to be fire. I can't wait for this one. I got Pantoja here and I'm a Patreon member. Join it cheap and worth it. Thank you, brother. Appreciate the testimony right there. African saying Pantoja inside the distance. Royval, an extremely wild fellow, but Pantoja is quite literally built different. See a brutal KO coming down the pipe. Perfect. As long as I cash that under 2.5, I'm happy with that. Joy W, Dirty Reg, Domingo Pilarte got melted by Jordan Newsom. Yes. Peter Cirillo's on Pantoja. I could see that. Brandon Ortega is saying Royval just for the look of victory. Uncle Uriah, this fight deserves to be 5 rounds. I absolutely agree. Rick Flair saying fight of the night. Yes, sir. Peter Cirillo with the $5 DKK. Is that what? Danish money or something? Appreciate the dono nonetheless. Love the support as always. Brandon Ortega should be the most hype fight of the night. I agree. Brandon Ortega to Chris Royval by Silver Pantoja moneyline to me, but popcorn fight. I'm just hoping for some violence here. Ric Flair, these guys are tough to not go the distance. Are too tough to not go the distance. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Again, it's the chaos I think that Royval is going to introduce here. That's going to make things very interesting. Derek Pantoja seems dreamed at weigh-ins. I'd be curious to see where the money is after weigh-ins, yeah. We'll see Friday how he looks on the scales. Justin T, just think Pantoja counters so well, especially off low leg kicks. Royval is super hittable. You are correct. This is the one fight I respectfully disagree. And again, this is no dictatorship of a stream. You are more than welcome to disagree, and I absolutely understand which side you're coming from here, brother. Too funny. Good luck, all. I love you. But better Royval has a value, but my brain and numbers favor Pantoja. I'll take the not go to decision prop. Yes. Okay, Royval fluked that Kai fight, man. Did he fluke it or did he Royval it? Right? That's what Royval does. He puts himself into these crazy situations and more often than not comes out on top. I wouldn't call it a fluke, man. Like most people that were in that situation are not thinking spinning back elbow. They're not. Brandon Royval does. Chris for the Love MMA, Pantoja and his spinning techniques are one thing to worry me in this matchup. I just viewed it. Joy, the no cutters on the record threw me off. Yes. Pilarte hand should remain high the whole time. We'll see. Yeah, even when he throws, though, very wild with it. I think he's going to be open to get countered. Anki Uriah, Pantoja reminds me of Lukian that he is so technical but explosive at the same time. Yeah. I know you like that one. Okay. JB saying Royval is the man. Yeah, that guy is a beast. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We got Austin Thud Hubbard going up against Vince Pichel. Even odds here on this fight. Nobody can really pick a side, but I feel quite confident on the Vince Pichel side. I feel as though the grapplers that Austin Hubbard has been fighting over his last 4 fights, he's going to succumb to this one. He's gone 2-2 against them. He only fought 1 striker in the UFC so far in Kyle Prepperlick. I believe he's also fought Davi Hamos before that, and it's hilarious that the UFC just continues to feed him grappler after grappler after grappler, and here's another one in Vince Pichel. Now, the main thing that's going to be scaring a lot of people off of Vince Pichel is the fact that he's 38 years old. But I feel like you got to kind of cancel that out given the fact that he only has 15 fights. He doesn't have too many fight miles on his body, right? He seems very durable. Seems like a guy that can still go a solid 15 minutes implementing his grappling and taking damage and giving and taking on in the striking realm. He's very good in that. His striking is serviceable enough. He has good power on the feet, and he should do enough in terms of being able to close the distance and eventually landing takedowns here. Austin Hubbard is known for his leg kicks, right? Leg kicks, body kicks. The guy has very nasty kicks. But I think that's really going to play into Vince Pichel's game plan in terms of catching some of those kicks and converting them into takedowns. So I'd be interested to see how often we see Austin Hubbard actually throw kicks. When we see Hubbard on his game, he looks like what he looked like in the Dakota Bush fight, right? on his game with the striking. Dakota Bush wasn't really successful in terms of dragging the fight to the ground, but I think that we'll see Vince Pichel have a ton more success in doing so against Austin Hubbard in this spot. So it's either you think Austin Hubbard keeps the fight vertical and just unloads on Vince Pichel and wins a decision, which I think is highly likely no matter who wins this fight, being a decision, or Vince Pichel lands takedowns and just grinds Austin Hubbard out. Maybe Hubbard gets back to his feet, which I'd be surprised if he doesn't. But I do think that we see Vince Pichel over and over land takedowns at least once or twice around and take home a decision victory. Vince Pichel by decision is plus 140. I think even at these pick odds, there's no need to get greedy for those extra 40 points. Just take those extra odds on that plus 140. Just take the even money on Vince Pichel on the spot, because you're going to be kicking yourself if he does somehow go out there and get a TKO or a submission of some sort. But I do like Vince Pichel on the spot. Don't look too hard at that 38-year-old spot that he's at right now. Fight miles is not that high considering how old he is, and he should be able to go out there and grind out Austin Hubbard over 15 minutes. So yes, I like Vince Pichel here. Liked him more than I expected him to like him. Pre-tape, I really thought this fight was a toss-up, but after running the tape, I am still I am quite confident on the Vince Pichel side here. So yeah, I like Pichel by decision. JB saying P got ran through by Moreno, but look at Moreno now. I'd love to have seen that fight go the full 15 minutes. Obviously, very good first round for Moreno, and obviously he looks amazing now, obviously as a champion, but I still do think that Royval could make that a closer of a fight. Dirty Reg, I like the Royval pick. The dog here in my cash. Yes, sir. Chris for the love. Fight goes to decision here for me, parlaying with Brian K. I like that. I think, I do think that this fight goes to a decision. Bo Better saying Hubbard just fights wrestlers. That is true. Dirty Reg, he got hurt that fight. Just JB not saying he would have won either way. Locke knows what I think of 36 plus year olds exactly. Bet on Austin Hubbard, my friend. Bet on Austin Hubbard. The African Vince Pichel probably just grinds on Hubbard for a boring decision, in my opinion. Hubbard needs a new manager because the poor lad needs to fight a striker. Yeah, absolutely agree. Moreno has really come into his own lately. You guys are still talking about the last fight. I want to continue moving on from here. It's about better. It's about like these that can make or break your evening. I always say I'm going to pass, but I'll tail lock my eye on this one. Yeah, I do like Pichel here. Haven't bet him myself, but he'll probably be one of my $50 bets, and he'll probably be in a couple of my degenerate parlays too. African JB, phenomenal display picture, fucking legend. Yeah, Mark Hunt. I love it. All right, let's keep this thing moving along. I can't believe we're an hour and 50 minutes into this. It feels like it's been much longer than that, but we're going on to our third fight on the main card. I believe this is the correct order of the fight card, and we still don't have odds on this fight. Let me just actually quickly refresh the Bet MMA page or best fight odds. Yeah, still no odds on it. But we got Trevin Jones taking on short notice newcomer Saeed Yokub. Let me try this. Saeed Yokub Saeed Yokub Kakhramonov. Saeed Yokub Kakhramonov. Coming over from the CFFC as the bantamweight champion. Never defended it. Knocked out the Lin kid. I can't remember the kid's first name, but he knocks him out in the first round. And it seems like he is a very solid replacement fighter, man. I don't think that this is one of those spots that you can just automatically go in there and auto bet Trevin Jones just because he's fighting a UFC newcomer. I think this Kakhramonov guy could get a couple of victories inside the UFC. My issue at times, though, is his striking, though. He does have some big power, and when he does commit to his strikes, it does seem like he can definitely knock out his opponents, as he's done over his last two fights. But he does get a little wild at times. It could definitely be something that Trevin Jones could counter effectively and possibly knock him out here. He actually had a pretty good performance against Umar Nurmagomedov about 5 fights ago for the PFL. Even though he lost, almost every round, he was making a very good account of himself. He was making it a competitive fight. Stopping takedowns and landing good strikes and, landing big body kicks against Umar. He was having a ton of success in that fight. But again, it's fucking Umar Nurmagomedov. There's only so far that you can actually go against a guy like that. And then the Piper Vargas fight, that was a weird one. He just decided to completely grapple fuck him that entire fight. And it seemed like his gas tank cost him there. And And Vargas was able to get a beautiful flying knee knockout late in that third round. If that was to go to a decision, Saeed probably gets that nod there, but it definitely showed that he was very much in tune with getting his grappling going and wanted none of the striking of Pipe Vargas. Here against Trevin Jones, I'd be surprised or interested to see how he decides to approach it. Is he going to go out there and try to grapple fuck Trevin Jones? Jones is a decent BJJ specialist himself, so I don't know if that's something he's going to want to look to attack. And then in the striking, he's going to have to be very careful because we obviously know for the last two fights, Trevin Jones has some heat in his hands too. So he could definitely knock him out in that aspect. Saeed has a judo background as well. We've definitely seen it on display in his past couple fights where he's landing beautiful judo trips and judo throws on guys, has some good takedowns, has some good control time as well. But I'm interested to see how it fares against a guy like Trevin and how Saeed decides to approach this fight. If Saeed is like a plus 300 dog, I think he's worth a little bit of a stab. But the thing that I think I'm going to be going after in this fight is going to be the under 2.5, as I feel as though they'll set the total at 2.5. If it's at 1.5, then I'll just pass. But if it's set at 2.5, I would look to take the under 2.5, as I think that we're going to see some violence in this fight and somebody should get a finish no matter which side it comes from. I'm ultimately going to go with the Trevin Jones side of things. I do think he ends up catching the wild Saeed and knocks him out. But again, if the line is out of whack here, I wouldn't rule out a shot on Saeed here, as I do think that he holds, some solid value at anything better than plus 250, plus 300. If it's a crazy line like that, I think you could take a little bit of a shot on him there. But I think just to cover both outcomes, which I think is likely a finish from either guy, it would be inside the under 2.5 here. So I'm going to go Trevin Jones first round KO. But I'd be very wary in terms of the amount of exposure that you have on Trevin here. And not to mention all the opponent changes time and time again. It's crazy, but at least he'll be able to get into the cage this weekend, knock on wood, that Saeed actually makes the weight and then makes it to the fight. All right, let's see what the chat is saying here. Dirty Reg saying Pichel only losses to Gregor and Rustam Khabilov, nothing to be ashamed of. And that was when Khabilov was like, still highly touted, still in the best shape of his career. Okay, saying when did this fight get added to the card? I believe earlier today they announced his replacement. African saying, what the fuck? I didn't know this fight was even happening. Skipping purely due to unknowns. Again, don't blindly parlay Trevin Jones in a ton of parlays here. He should win. Don't get me wrong. But I think that Saeed is no pushover in this spot. JB, Trevin has been a sizable dog in his last 2 wins. Yep. Everybody's been counting him out. Valiev fight was nuts. Yeah, I threw everything in the kitchen sink. Valiev did and almost got Trevin's out of there early. But then, started to gas and Trevin Jones was able to come back. Nolan Smith, pre-USADed Rustam or Rustam. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Parker Porter, fan favorite Parker Porter going up against Chase Sherman, plus 165 on Porter and minus 190 on Chase Sherman. Maybe seeing a different Chase Sherman this time around, who's actually changed his training camp, gone down to Sanford MMA and tried to start to round out his game down there, especially after coming up short against Andrei Arlovsky last time around. Now, I got to admit, I feel as though he honey-dicked me after his performance against Ike Villanueva, because he put on a performance of a lifetime against Ike that night and then was popped by USADA shortly thereafter, and then did not look good in the Andrei Arlovsky fight. He was marching down Arlovsky a lot, but he just wasn't throwing enough. His volume was not there. And I think that's why the judges ultimately gave it to Arlovsky, who was landing the better shots and looked like he was more effective with the striking, even though he was the one kind of on his back foot for the majority of that fight. Even Arlovsky was landing some good leg kicks in that fight, as I thought that Chase Sherman was going to be the one landing the more significant leg kicks, especially considering how effective he was with the calf kick against Ike Villanueva. But we saw none of that against Andrei Arlovsky. Is going to be able to rediscover that in this fight against Parker Porter? Maybe. That is a bit of a concern. The other concern for the Parker Porter side of things is the durability. Chase Sherman could absolutely knock him out, but he ate some big shots from Josh Parisian and kept chugging. Chris Delkis, I think he's one of the best strikers is becoming one of the best strikers in the heavyweight division, because he's so quick, precise, and has fast hands that a lot of people are underrating the fact that, he has knockout power, but from the fact that he's so pinpoint and accurate with the strikes, and his hand speed is just ridiculous that a lot of people aren't expecting it. And he put on a great combination there to put away Parker Porter in his UFC debut. Can Chase Sherman do the same thing? Maybe. Chase Sherman has big power. I'll definitely give it to him. But I think it's early in the fight. The earlier the fight is, the better chance he has of putting Parker Porter away. But the later this fight goes, I think it gets interesting. If Porter makes it out of the first round, I think he can make it a very tough fight for Chase Sherman. He has great leg kicks of his own, so I'm sure he's going to be hammering that from the get-go to really start to take the pop off the shots of Chase Sherman. And then later in the fight, he has some good blitzes where he's, throws combinations to close the distance and rattle off a couple shots. Like I said, great leg kicks. And he has some good work in the clinch too. He can push Chase up against the cage. Excuse me. He can push Chase up against the cage and start to rough him up there, win minutes, win seconds, and really start to make an impression in the judge's eyes. Again, Parker Porter is kind of like the joke in the MMA betting community, but the guy still has some chops. I know he's 36 years old, and I know he got knocked out by Chris Delkis in his first fight in the UFC, but the guy showed in the Josh Parisian fight that he can, when his durability holds up, he can definitely make it a very tough night for his opponents, just as he did for Josh Parisian that night. I think he can do the same thing here against Chase Sherman. I'm not overly invested in the Parker Porter side, but I am going to pick him to win this fight. I'm going to pick him to win it by decision as well. I think it's around that plus 400 range, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just clarify that. Porter by decision plus 425. I think there's some solid value there. Again, he could look like the busier fighter, especially as we've seen from Sherman. His activity really seems to drop off in the second and third rounds, whereas Parker Porter seems to hold that same type of pace and that activity from minute 1 to minute 15. So I like Porter here. Porter by decision. Laugh at me all you want, but I think he has the chops to go out there and definitely not look like a plus 165, but maybe end up looking like a favorite depending on how that first round goes for him. So as long as he doesn't get knocked out early, I like Porter here. And if you don't like Porter, I still also don't mind that over 1.5. That's a little bit chalky at minus 165 at this point. But yeah, I like Parker Porter here. I will say there are some people that I respect on Chase Sherman, so it does make me a little bit hesitant, but I do still think that Parker Porter ends up winning this fight via decision. All right, let's see. Great, or George Medixopolis, appreciate you stopping by. Greetings from Greece, my man. We are going to disagree on the main event, but no hard feelings. You already know me, brother. Leon Nestastug stopping by, saying it's 4:17 here. Appreciate you staying up late with me, watching the breakdown. Hopefully we can get some cash in your pockets for it this weekend. Christopher Love saying fight doesn't go to decision here for sure and not fully chalked yet. I don't know about that, my man. African saying hell yes it is. Love the big Usos and I hate people who beat me. Jeez. That fight made that whole card for me. Chris Stewart saying staying away from this fight. Ryan Grant Parker Porter fan club. You might hear me cheering in the stands for Mr. Parker Porter this weekend. Let's see. African Sherman inside the distance. Porter built like the shit in your grandma's backyard, and I've never been impressed with him. Leg kicks hammer away at those big drumstick thighs, and KO comes soon after. I expect could happen. He's just got to let it go. That's the thing. He's got to let it go, and if he does, he has a good shot of winning this fight. He got chops. He does. Dirty Rags seems like Chase will be a lot tougher challenge than Josh Friesen was to Porter. Arlovsky had to use mass movement to edge Chase side. I don't think Porter will move so well. I think he does move decent enough. Maybe not to the level of Andre Arlovsky. I agree with you there, but I think enough to beat a guy like Chase Sherman. But better might stab Porter round one after than Passy. I agree. This could be a great live betting opportunity. If he gets out of round one, I think it's more so in favor of Porter winning this fight. Uncle Weezy with the stats. Shout out to my guy here. He's saying 89% of Sherman's fights have taken place at striking range. If Porter is successful making this fight dirty and takes Sherman down, he has a great chance to win. Yeah, clinch work, takedowns, and again, even his blitz attacks from the outside and leg kicks, I think, would be big for Porter in this spot. But yeah, takedowns would be a big look as well. I definitely wouldn't mind that. Elias Saavedra, shout out my guy Elias here. You by far have the best MMA channel. I appreciate that, my guy. I do my best. I may not be the best handicapper, may not be the best predictor, may not be the best fucking gambler. but I put in the work, and you guys see it. So I appreciate the support, my guy. Deuces Lock, I'll catch the rest tomorrow. I appreciate you stopping by, Justin. Jared is saying, I like Porter. Dude is decent. I agree. Unk back spring some stats. Love when Unk just drops in every now and then, drops those stats. Always makes the show a little bit better. Hafkin saying, all jokes aside, Porter does move pretty well for such a unit. I agree. Fight doesn't go to decision, it seems safe for this one. I don't know. I think I like Porter by decision here, but we'll see how it goes down. All right, that brings us to our co-main event, probably the most highly discussed fight on Twitter, on YouTube streams, all that stuff. We got Clay, the veteran, Guida, plus 145 going up against Mark O. Madsen, minus 165. Undefeated 10-0, 36-year-old Olympian Mark Madsen, trying to come in here and grapple fuck Clay Guida to a victory or find a submission early in this fight, because if this fight gets deeper into the second and third rounds, we've seen what Madsen's cardio looks like, and he may be the better wrestler on paper here, but that means jack shit if you don't have the capacity with your cardio to maintain that for 50 minutes. And when you have a guy like the Energizer Bunny, like Clay Guida in front of you, it's going to be hard to track that guy down and really implement that wrestling. And I think that he's going to have difficulty in doing so here. If Madsen gets an early submission victory here, that's probably his best and safest path to victory. But if he thinks he's going to go out there and outwork Clay Guida for 15 minutes, he has another thing coming. However, given the fact that he's now down there at Fight Ready, he's been there for 3 months, working with Eddie Cha, working with Santino DeFranco, you got to believe that they've instilled some solid work into this guy, and hopefully a way that he can preserve his gas tank over 15 minutes rather than just, going balls to the wall with his grappling early in this fight like he did in the Austin Hubbard fight. We saw Hubbard almost put him out in that third round. And I don't think that Clay Guida is going to be close here in terms of getting a finish, but he should definitely have the work rate very high from minute 1 to minute 15. So I'm interested to see how Mark Madsen is going to look to nullify that and try to preserve that gas tank over 15 minutes, especially if he's not able to get him out of there early in this fight. Striking could use some work. He has some good power in his hands, but we definitely know what he wants to do is to drag the fight to the ground, whereas Clay Guida, 56 fight veteran Clay Guida, is decent all around, but he definitely does shine brightest when he's able to get his grappling game going, really taking opponents down and outworking them in those spots. I don't think he'll have that success early in this fight, but I do think that he'll find that success the later that the fight goes. Another great live betting spot, just like my guy Belbedro was talking about with Parker Porter after round 1, might be a good live betting spot. Clay Guida will be a great live betting spot after round 1 in this fight. It's truly going to come down to that second round. Is Mark Madsen going to have enough left in the gas to, control and land enough damage for the first 3 minutes, at least 3 minutes of this second round? Or is Clay Guida going to be able to make it too hard for him, and then he's going to be able to start to take over later that this fight goes? I'm going with the Clay Guida side of things here. I do think that he nullifies the amount of damage and submission threats that's going to be coming his way early in this fight, and then I think he starts to pull away in the second and third round. Again, Clay Guida probably not the best bet against most guys in the top 20 in this division, but the way he stylistically matches up against the undefeated Mark Madsen here, I think it's a great way for him to go out there and pull off the upset and take that O away from Marco Madsen. So I'm going Clay Guida by decision. I believe his decision prop sits around plus 290. I'm just going to quickly confirm that number. Guida by decision plus 290. I like that spot. Definitely will be taking a sprinkle there. So I like Clay Guida here, plus 145 dog. Think there's enough value on his money line as well. I know there's a lot of polarizing thoughts and opinions on either side here. I know people feel very heavily about Marco Madsen, but I do think that Clay Guida is definitely one of the better underdogs, or one of the more live underdogs on the card. I do want to quickly pull up the I put out a poll earlier today. Where is it? Yes. So I put a poll out today. I used to do this a lot. It was my lock of the night poll where I put like the 4 heaviest favorites, anything better than minus 250. I put them in a poll, and then I also put, if it's not listed, comment below. But I let the people decide, who do they think is the lock of the night play for UFC Vegas 34? I put William Knight, I put Chase Sherman, I put Marco Madsen, and I put Brian Kelleher. Mark Madsen came in third. He got 21% of 518 votes. I'm going to hit the retweet on that now as well, in case anybody wants to vote on it again. And Brian Kelleher is actually leading at 41% of the 518 votes. Chase Sherman is in second, Marco Madsen is in third, and William Knight's in fourth. So, yeah, a lot of interesting thoughts from either side for this matchup. Let's see. Uncle Weezy so fired up for Madsen Guida. If I'm not mistaken, Uncle Weezy actually did a balls deep breakdown on this matchup. So make sure you guys go check out Uncle Weezy, digging into all the necessary stats and relevant stats for this particular matchup. So if you want a more stats driven breakdown of this fight, make sure you guys go check out Uncle Weezy. Love that guy. That's my dude right there. PA Live, LA St. Parker's going down in round one. That's definitely a winning opportunity. African saying Guida decision take it to the bank. Live betting him after round one. Guida will be able to scramble for 50 minutes until he's 85 years old. I agree. JB, wasn't Guida supposed to fight somebody else? I don't think so. It might have been the other way. I think Madsen was supposed to fight somebody else. Could be wrong. Ryan Grant, Guida Live for better odds. You're right. Yeah, Guida Live betting for sure. I agree. JB saying I was so confident MJ was going to beat Guida in his last fight. I know. Sean Sharma is saying over. I don't mind that as well. Over is not too bad of a look. What's that sitting at right now? Over. Oh, here we go. Over 2.5 minus 235. A little bit chalky. But yeah, I think the only finish here would be if Madsen submits him early, but I don't see that happening. JB saying I couldn't have been more wrong. Chris saying, but I may put Madsen and Brian Gane in a parlay, then hedge Clay round two of the odds, if the odds are crazy. I agree. Josh Benedict, Madsen won't gas until round three. He hasn't fought an energizer bunny like Clay before, right? Like we know Clay's activity level, work rate, everything. It's going to be higher than Madsen's ever faced before. So he might gas in round two. We don't know. Chris is saying Clay is truly a juggernaut for sure. He has a lot of hard pressure. It can never count him out. Exactly. About better saying, look at the grapplers Guida has both defeated and who have submitted him. Madsen not on the same MMA grappling pedigree. Exactly. Great wrestler, still working on his BJJ game, and I don't think his BJJ is going to be up to snuff in the spot. Okay, saying I'm feeling the live bet on Guida. Yeah, that's definitely a good spot. Guida was such a massive fave over BJ. Yeah, minus 750. It definitely goes to show how washed BJ was. Josh Benedict saying Sherman by left hook. Uncle Uriah is Madsen, the guy who's wrestling was highly touted coming in the UFC. Yeah, he was an Olympian, so definitely highly touted. But better if you feel Guida, he has a nice slice at plus 125, plus 145 on the money line. I agree. Uncle Weezy, Clay Guida is 0-5 when he gets taken down 2 or more times in the UFC. Madsen's Greco-Roman wrestling is next level. That is correct. Does he have the gas to do that for at least 2 solid rounds is my question. About better, yes, Uncle, he is good, but nothing next level. Thanks, Locke. Appreciate that, dude. You know I always got you. I got to get you on this channel very soon again. Ric Flair, Madsen won a silver medal in 2016 now against a 40-year-old Clay Guida. Madsen decision, he takes round 1 and 2. Again, it comes down to round 2. Clay is an absolute maniac. He is absolutely. Dirty Rex saying, it's hard to believe Guida will beat an undefeated Olympic wrestler. I want to leave this fight off parlays because I do know Guida will never give up. Exactly. Again, the only action I'm going to be having on this fight is more than likely just Guida. Jared Garrett, social anxiety, saying this fight feels risky and I don't know why. I want to like Guida, but I feel you could get screwed in this spot. Possibly. Ric Flair is saying, a great stat, Uncle Weezy. Uncle Weezy's the man. I got to stop stroking him off here before he busts one over there. All right, let's get to the main event. And as I always like to remind you guys at this point, again, close to 100 live viewers here, make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe. And if you guys want to support your boy a little bit more, hit that Patreon in the link description. In the description below, $5 a month. Got a great amount of content up there. Best bets and props article, all official bets as soon as I make them, even though they're free to the public more often than not on the on Fridays. And yeah, got a bunch of other things on there. Prize picks tips I normally drop on there. And then the Discord community that we've been able to build up there has been absolutely phenomenal. People dropping picks, not just on MMA, but all on other sports. So shout out to those guys for adding even more value to the Patreon just because of Discord alone. So if you guys do hop on the Patreon, make sure you guys check out the Discord. You guys That's worth the $5 alone. Let's be honest. I love those guys over there, so I appreciate those guys. All right, main event time. Jared Cannonier minus 150. Plus 130 is the return here on Kelvin Gastelum. Now, Jared Cannonier opened up closer to a minus 225 favorite, got quickly bet down to minus 150, and has pretty much been hovering at that number since last week, pretty much. A lot of people are understanding that that line was a little bit too wide. Shout out to everybody that got in on Kelvin Gastelum nice and early here, because there was plenty of value for to be had at those lines. Now, I still do think that there is decent value here at plus 130, as I do think that he's the better fighter here against Jared Cannonier. And I think he's just at a precarious spot in his career. Just look at those last five, right? 1-4 on those last five. But let's look at those last five. Israel Adesanya. That's an interim title fight where he, it's 2-2 going into that fifth round, comes down to that fifth round, and Israel Adesanya just has that little bit more that he ends up getting the win there. Darren Till, we see a very disciplined Darren Till, especially considering it was his first fight after losing to, I believe that was his first fight after he lost to Tyron Woodley. Jack Hermanson, that was a weird one, right? Gets the heel hook, gets the win pretty quickly there. That one's a weird one. Ian Heinisch, we see a little bit of classic Gastelum there, outworking Heinisch over those 50 minutes. And obviously the way Heinisch has been looking over his last couple of fights, not the best look either. And then Robert Whittaker beats him minute 1 to minute 25. Doesn't really look like he's losing any of those spots, but Robert Whittaker is still number 2 in this division, in my opinion, right behind Israel Adesanya. So he's losing the high-level competition. Let's just not write this guy off right away. I think he still has a lot to give, and the fact that he's only 29 years old still shows that he has time to continue to develop and become and remain that fighter that we know he's always been. Skill for skill, I think he's the much better fighter than Jared Cannonier in the spot. What does Jared have? Knockout power. Absolutely, he has knockout power. Kelvin Gastelum never been stopped by punches, never been stopped by strike, never been stopped by TKO. Jared Cannonier has good leg kicks. He could definitely go out there and land some good calf kicks, land some good leg kicks, possibly nullify the movement in Kelvin Gastelum, and that could potentially help him find that knockout. That's never happened on Kelvin Gastelum's career. Could happen. Again, Jared Cannonier, heavy hitter. I'm absolutely recognizing that. But I think everywhere else, Kelvin Gastelum's better. I think he is the better striker. May not have as much pop as Cannonier, but he does have some pop on his shots. His takedowns, has decent takedowns, has a great jiu-jitsu game as well. Good scramble ability. Decent cardio, 5-round experience. Jared Cannonier has been scheduled for 5 rounds once, I think, and that didn't last too long, right? The Jack Hermanson fight gets him out of there quickly, or I believe that was in round 2. But again, we don't get to see him in rounds 3, 4, or 5. So the cardio of Cannonier is still up for debate. He could look good from rounds 1 to 5, but we need to see it before we can actually say it. Kelvin Gastelum, he's been on and off with his cardio, but I feel like the fact that he has 5-round experience is good enough for him to have the advantage the later that this fight goes. The later that this fight goes, I feel that the more of the advantage Gastelum's going to have. I think he should not have to worry too much about Cannonier's power the later this fight goes. I think takedowns will come easier for him the later that this fight goes. And from there, he should be able to either grind out Cannonier, get some good top position, get some control minutes, win seconds of the fights, win rounds. And this could be another good live betting opportunity as well, where you bet Kelvin Gastelum after round 1 and round 2, because those will probably be the most significant rounds that Jared Cannonier has. I'm not completely writing off Jared Cannonier because that, now that I'm thinking about it, that's what it sounds like I'm doing. I'm not. The guy's talented, has some good power, could definitely be the first person to knock out Kelvin Gastelum. I just don't see it happening this weekend. I think we see Gastelum endure the first 2 rounds and then start to get to work rounds 3, 4, and 5, land some big shots on the feet, and then starts to land takedowns and grind this fight out over 25 minutes. So I'm going to be taking Kelvin Gastelum, and I'm going to be taking Gastelum via decision. Plus 225, not too bad of a line, but even at plus 130, I'd like to cover the possibility that Gastelum gets a late finish here in case Cannonier doesn't have a good gas tank. At least in rounds 4 and 5. So yeah, I like Kelvin here, Kelvin by decision, but not ruling out a late finish. Again, the jury is still out on Cannonier's cardio, I think. All right, let's see what the chat is saying, and then we'll get the fuck up on out of here. Uncle Weezy saying the best thing about this fight is there's so many reasons to love both fighters. I agree. But better reminding you guys to like it up. Yes, do like it up. MMA Kappa saying would love to see Mexicano get back to his winning ways here. 48-47 split decision in a war. Yeah, I hope it's. I think it's going to be a great fight. No matter who wins here, I think it's going to be a great fight. Chris says I lean the dog here with his experience, ability to wrestle if need be, toughness and cardio. I agree. Jared's leg kicks could be a problem for Gastelum. I agree. That is definitely a valid argument. African is saying, feel like Cannonier takes this. I like Kelvin, but the difference in physicality is going to be extreme. Near impossible to KO. I'm fighting a guy who can make 170 easily if you just put down the tacos. Yes, sir. Kelvin is ridiculously tough as fuck too. I agree. They're both tanks. MMA Kappa Gasti hits that loud pack and snacks too much for welterweight. African Kelvin clean boxing, but I think his leg gets blasted into a different postal code. Yes, that could happen. Average Joe Cannonier is so long and big from 185. Don't see Gastelum closing a distance enough to do damage. His blitz attacks are good, man. He does close distance and land big shots. Like the way he was able to close distance against Israel Adesanya should let you guys know that he does a decent job of closing distance and getting big power shots off. He's always the smaller fighter, right? At middleweight, he's kind of just grown into it now. And I think he's kind of gotten used to it. The leg kicks is definitely a concern. As a Gastelum backer, that would definitely be a concern. Ric Flair agrees 100% Gastelum. Belbetter saying Gastelum always gets touched but Cannonier might not find him. Gastelum needs to get some movement from his teammate Dominic Cruz and Buddy 3C. I don't think they're teammates. I could be wrong. Gastelum's out there at fucking King's MMA. Tajik, okay, I'm back. Close fight indeed. It's 50-50. Go to decision. Yeah, I do like to go to decision here. Gastelum might smoke more weed than us. Nah. Chris saying Jared inside the distance, only way to bet him to me, but I like Kelvin. And yeah, I agree. Live betting is the best option. I agree. Hafkin saying also Cannonier is impossible to hold down. Don't think he's been on his back for longer than a minute at any given time, even if after he got kicked clean in the head and jumped on by lower degree. Yeah, he does spring up to his feet pretty well. Dirty Reg, I don't see K Gas winning this fight at all. Imagine Gastelum just started finally Cruz all of a sudden. That'd be jokes. Uncle Uriah, Burrito Belly versus Abs carved from crystals. JB Bobby and weaving around the octagon. That would be hilarious. I don't personally think K Gas has the pop on his strikes to hurt Jared. He could, man. I do think he has KO ability. Uncle Weezy saying both of these guys are so tough. I like the fight goes to decision here. Kelvin has an iron chin, and there isn't an ounce of quit in either of these guys. They are well matched, so I see it going the distance. I agree. I just hope that it's a war for those 5 rounds, to be honest. Kelvin by decision, easy money. My guy, PA Live LA, really likes Kelvin here. Dirty Reg, I think any one shot of Jared could take Gas out. I know he's never been knocked out, but it's the first time for everything. Exactly. It could happen. It could happen. Glide OG saying Kelvin by decision, easy pick. I don't think it's going to be that easy, but I am picking him to win. Sahil Pantoja saying Jared is going to win. Bet the bank. Ooh, good luck, my brother. I like KJ here strictly because of Jared age. yeah, Jared, 37 years old. That's definitely a narrative that a lot of people like to hammer on. Not me, though. African saying great fight, either this fight or Royval Pantoja for fight of the night. I agree. All right. That's a wrap on the breakdowns. Appreciate you guys checking out the episodes an hour and 40 minutes into this breakdown. I am going to be wrapping up the editing on the pre-recorded version of the podcast. So that should be dropping in the next several hours. So make sure you guys keep your eyes out for that. If you guys want to hear me, uninterrupted, just talk fights. People really enjoy the pre-recorded episode as well. So you guys can check that out very soon. Thursday, I believe we're going to be doing 4 p.m. Eastern start time for propping you up. It's going to be the debut episode. Excuse me. It's going to be the debut episode for my guy, MMA Fox, a.k.a. John Stargarian, a.k.a. Dog Hunter Galore. So make sure you guys tune in for that one. I'll be live in Vegas from that. My plan is land in Vegas, check into my hotel, do the stream, then do whatever the fuck I want. So my plan is 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. PST, for propping you up on Thursday. And then Friday, Ultimate Weigh-In Show. I'm aiming to do that for 2 p.m. You know what? Sometime between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. PST. So it's going to be either 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. EST on Friday. I'm going to be doing the Ultimate Weigh-In Show, and then Fight Day live chat that will go down as scheduled, normal scheduled time, 1 p.m. Eastern, which means I'll be up at 10 a.m. PST doing that live chat for you guys. So a ton of content coming out the gutter for you guys. Let's quickly see what the chat is saying on the back end, and then I'll get the fuck up on out of here. George Medixopolis saying, how does KG counter the leg kicks? He has a reach disadvantage, so his straight hooks will not be there. Just punch every time that there's a leg kick thrown. Try to counter with a punch. Try to get Cannonier scared that he won't be able to continuously keep throwing those leg kicks without getting checked himself. So, and also, hopefully he checks them. Hopefully he checks them. Dirty Reg, appreciate you stopping by. Belbetter, thank you as well for your hard work and the support over and over again. I definitely will enjoy Vegas. Sahil, Uncle Uriah saying Jared going to cry Kelvin with the left when he comes into range, wobble him, and then finish him when the ref ends it early. Let's see if that comes down. African Big Show lads, time to break out the extracurriculars and catch a great sleep. Yes, sir. That was well done and thorough. I appreciate the love, my guy. Enjoy Vegas. I cannot wait. Thursday morning cannot come soon enough. Very Reg saying I should go to the sportsbook now. You guys have really informed me. Thanks a bunch. Good luck. Hopefully we can get you some green in that pocket. Belvedere saying stay safe in Vegas. I think they have the largest drive-through dispensary in the world. Again, I'm not going to have a car. So hopefully there's some dispensaries on the strip that I can just walk over to and get some. I heard they gouge a lot, like, they're overpriced, but don't give a fuck. Just give me a couple of J's and I'll be good. All right. That's a wrap on my end. Again, on the back end here, make sure you guys hit the like, hit the subscribe, show your boys some support, and then I'll see you guys throughout the week as well. Anki Rai saying, have fun in Vegas. Enjoy it all for us. Stuck in these lockdowns and curfews. I will say they put out the itinerary for the fights this weekend, and all guests must wear masks while they're in the venue. So I don't mind it, whatever. I'm not a complainer or anything like that. Still looking forward to watching these fights, but I will definitely be as safe as I can while I'm there. Sean Sharma saying 24/7 dispensaries, even better. All right. Appreciate you guys. Catch you throughout the week. Good luck on your bets this week. And yeah, let's fucking get this money.